What's poppin', y'all? Welcome to Postman Productions. My name is Jason Rogers, or you can call me J-Raj. Today, we will be starting a new segment, me and then the homie. We'll be starting working on it, called Postman Movie Rating. It's basically where we'll be picking out a movie, combing through it for all the goods and all the bads. We'll take those, tally them, average them into the overall score based on 4 categories. Their story, acting, production, and rewatch value. Basically, how many times you actually want to rewatch it. We will generally use a 5-star scale. 5 being an overall masterpiece that you love to rewatch. One of your favorite movies, generally has no problems with it. Or, you can go down to a 1-star, which would be placed into the dookie category. You don't want to do that. So today, we will be reviewing Star Wars Episode 1, A Phantom Menace. First category, story. The overall base of it, that's shown in the title crawl, was all about tax and trade regulation of the, Trade Federation. Couldn't be more on the nose. Like, I don't like taxes in real life. What makes them think I'd want it in Star Wars? The movie universe I'd used to escape. Especially in time like now. 2020, world's kind of went to shit. So obviously, that's a big minus. That'll be the first one. First one of this category. Then as soon as you open up to Naboo, you get to meet Jar Jar? He is probably one of the worst characters, easily in Star Wars. Plus, he's scattered and littered throughout the film. So, that's 2 minuses. 1 for Jar Jar being introduced, and then 2 for him being littered out the film. Also, what's littered out the film? There's a lot of filler scenes. So, obviously, that's going to be another big minus. There are a handful of great characters, like Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Padme's alright. But, they have lapses in knowledge. Like Qui-Gon, for example. After Watto telling him that they had the only hyperdrive on Tatooine, or in Mos Eisley, easily, I would have went to go check other places. Make sure. Instead of trusting the word of some fucking alien that has... Well, I can't even use having slaves because everyone in Star Wars has slaves. But, I will give them one thing. They took time exploring alien languages on Tatooine, which I think is a decent bit of world building, including other cultures and seeing how they function. So, and then, there's the C-3PO scene. Overall, that scene has great energy. It's introducing one of the characters that you had in the original trilogy, and that's going to be throughout the whole series, along with R2-D2. That was a nice welcome, but we won't be counting that during the story. So, obviously, that's going to be 2 big pluses. Or, 1 big plus, my bad. Next point. Shmi lets Anakin go into the pod race. Obviously, that's going to be a big minus. But let me tell you why this irks me. Anakin's already been in pod races before. Shmi Skywalker has said, oh, I've hated him going in every one of those things. It's dangerous and I fear for him. But you let him? For a group of complete strangers? All the other races were excused by your part. Because your slave master told you to do it. If other than that, I know damn well my kid wouldn't have been risking his life for some group of strangers. Then Qui-Gon, before the race, takes Anakin's blood. Oh, what was that for? It was because of the infection. Then he hits up Obi-Wan on his little not cellular, but comms. He then says, I want you to check his blood. For, drumroll please, midichlorians. Like, decent bit of world building. But then again, I don't want to see that in a movie. It's kind of boring. That offsets that. Plus, it's oddly tempoed. The story is oddly tempoed. It breaks tensions in the worst parts. Like when it flashes over to a spider droid looking through Mos Eisley for the main cast sent by Darth Maul. it cuts in the middle. We didn't really even need to have that scene, so we continue and move through the pod race scene. All the filler scenes just want to bloat the runtime, and that's another big minus. Along with the changing the tempo of the scenes, of course. That's a big minus. But they also make war talk boring right before they plan on taking back the capital. They feel it was such monotone that Lucas could have wrote something to do in the background while they were just speaking about it. Jar Jar flailing in the air, another filler scene. They make war talk boring, big minus. But it is also offset by the actual action that takes in afterward. They make war talk boring, big minus. But it is also offset by the actual action that takes in afterward when they go to retake the capital after pod racing. I mean, it's a pretty solid plan. The action looks pretty good, so that's a big plus. So, kind of evens out. But, least favorite scene of the movie, Anakin Solo in the cockpit trying to fly up and destroy one of the droid carriers. See, it bothers me because they give him too much Solo dialogue. You need to have someone else in the scene with him to actually help him out. And I will use a quote. So, yeah. Anakin cockpit, it's what you call pod racing. Not really my whole deal. But one of the biggest pluses about this movie is interluded with that scene. The Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon fight. By far, well, I wouldn't say by far, but it's one of the best lightsaber fights. I'd place it over any other lightsaber fight that they had in Attack of the Clones. Movie coming after. I can go on forever about that. All the different lightsaber forms they alternate through. Why Qui-Gon lost. And, well, I'm sure I will go through that another time, another video. But he got separated, he's old, ran out of breath, so he lost. Darth Maul beat him. Oh, by the way, spoiler. Sorry. Well, movie came out 30-some years ago, so not my fault. But yeah, Qui-Gon got separated and got killed. So Obi-Wan decides to be the great Jedi that he is. He was still a Jedi Padawan by that time, but still, he defeated the first Sith Lord in 1,000 years, I believe. I'll pop up the right answer right here. But in 1,000 years, first Sith Lord to defeat him. He instantly got promoted to Jedi Knight right after that point. Obviously. And then, last plus for this round. The ending. It had an overall happy and optimistic mood. Except for the whole Qui-Gon funeral scene. That was pretty sad. Don't get me wrong. That did leave a lot of mystery, though. That's why I like the ending. It's a big plus. And I think that will be the last note for the story part. Story category, more or less to say. So now, for the story, I'd have to give it a -4. Based on all the pluses and minuses for this category. It earns a -4. Now, let's move on to the acting. Now, the acting. Ray Parks did great as Darth Maul. Acting, brooding, always making the right move. For me, that is a big plus on the side of that. And also, Qui-Gon, Anakin, and Padme and Anakin. Like I said, Anakin needed those two to help do better on screen. Qui-Gon and Anakin have a nice chemistry. What you can see it, people generally overlook it when you see the movie. Because everyone has a preconceived notion that it's a really bad movie. It's not. You just gotta notice the subtle little differences in it. Like the chemistry between, sorry for being repetitive, Anakin and Qui-Gon. Or even the chemistry between Padme and Anakin. It was a nice somber moment when they were up in space, having different explanations over the temperatures, I guess. Again, clunky. It's bad dialogue. Can't blame that. That'll be on the production side, by the way. So, you know, that'll be another 2 pluses. But, I guess, first minus of the category, they have very, very odd time delivery. I'm sure I'll pop up an example right here.
That will hold them.
Yeah, after that clip, I think that proves my point. Very odd time delivery. So that's the first thing. That's the first minus of this category. Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor. They were both great during this movie. They both carried a certain... They both embodied their roles as Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. Later on, we'll see that be definite with Ewan McGregor nailing Obi-Wan, because he's the perfect actor to play that. You know, God rest you, Sir Alec McGuinness, the original actor. So, that'll be two big pluses. Natalie Portman did good. So, I guess I'll give that another plus for the acting side. And for the acting portion, I believe that is it. And the overall score, a nice 5. It did good. There were areas it lacked, but it had enough positives to average out. Basically, it's your normal Star Wars movie, you know? It has good sets. It has good makeup like usual. And the beautiful city shots. Like when you're talking about Naboo, when you went to Naboo, you felt like you were actually there. It good sets. It has good makeup like usual, and the beautiful city shots. Like when you're talking about Naboo, when you went to Naboo, you felt like you were actually there. It looked beautiful as hell. Plus the Gungan city, surprisingly or not, being underwater, it is beautiful there. Like the setup, the atmosphere makes you feel like you're actually there. And then the alien makeup, it could use better work, but it's pretty good. Like, you can see the mouths don't move as much as you would like them to, but still. Great makeup work. Better than I could personally do in any special effects makeup. Honestly, that's my opinion. Then there's also great scores, like Duel of Fate. By far one of my, if not my favorite Star Wars composition, done by John Williams. He is an amazing conductor. He is scattered across cinema. If you could pick out a certain couple of movies, like Schindler's List had him producing it. Then there was a movie about Abraham Lincoln. He produced the score. Beautiful. I love John Williams as a conductor. I wish him in the best health. But they also had beautiful scores. So that's a plus for the scores, for the sets, for the makeup, and for the all-around city shots. Production did pretty good, but it had one area it lacked in. George Lucas could have done better with the dialogue to make the story a little bit more interesting and make the filler scenes not feel as much as, well, filler. Like they weren't supposed to be there. You could have cut a lot of scenes out and the movie would have been just the same, if not better. So, clunky dialogue, filler. So that's a nice few positives per one negative. Also, this is where they started off using the CGI. And it's not that good. It's 2001, so I wouldn't expect the CGI to be too good, but it's still bad. And it doesn't age well, so we'll move on to that. One example of actually, we won't move on from that. One example of the bad CGI is when Darth Maul is falling down the shaft. You can see him clearly turn from the actor into the unfinished CGI model. It looked very bad. So, obviously that's a minus. I forget if I already talked about the odd face shots, but there were a couple. There was Padme, like, looking goofy as hell, and then there was little Anakin looking derpy as shit. I'm not going to count that too much as a negative. We'll leave that neutral. And that is it for the production-wise. And the score for production is 2. It was an alright production. There were some areas that they did bad in, but overall it was pretty decent. I liked it. Next category we will be talking about is the rewatch value. The rewatch value, we don't got too much to talk about that. But some of the reasons that the rewatch value is there is because of the lightsaber choreography and the lightsaber fights. Even the shorter one where Darth Maul just ran up on Qui-Gon and Anakin. Qui-Gon was defending himself. I loved the different set of moves in there. And then, later on, in the final fight, where Darth Maul unleashed his full skill set upon Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, it was beautiful. It was mastery. Obviously, anyone's going to rewatch that movie just for those few scenes, if not just looked a few scenes up. So, honestly, that is a big plus for the rewatch value. The ending, I guess that was covered in the story, but people, I wouldn't exactly give it a, I'll give it a point for rewatch value, because the ending was good, optimistic, it made me feel like watching Attack of the Clones, sadly. And then, not only is that, last thing we got for this section, it's the start of a trilogy. When you plan on watching the prequels trilogy, you kind of have to watch Phantom Menace to pick up the start of the story. Otherwise than that, well, I mean, there's no otherwise than that. That obviously right there is a plus. So for rewatch value, we get a total score of 4. And now, for the overall rating of the movie. Overall, it's a 2-star movie. It's not bad. It has problems with the story and almost makes up for it with the acting. The production was alright. It was your average Star Wars movie. But it still had a few problems with it. They didn't really perfect it CGI and After Effects all like that. So, I mean, it is a minus, but we'll still keep it there. It only has a bit of... It has a decent amount of rewatch value, but not enough to save the overall movie score, which is a 2-star. It's an okay movie, but at least it stayed out of the dookie pile. In conclusion, for Phantom Menace, that's pretty much the conclusion. Thanks for watching. I would like you to like,